In our never-ending quest to find the Mariners some more offense in the 2023 to 2024 offseason, we've now turned once again to JD Martinez. This is a guy who we've mentioned a lot for the Seattle Mariners in the past, and looking at him right now, it again makes a lot of sense for them. And he was finally mentioned by JP Morosi over on MLB Network. Of course, we talked about Morosi a lot lately. That's just because he's like the most plugged-in guy when it comes to the Seattle Mariners and what they're doing this offseason. JD Martinez, does he make sense for the Seattle Mariners this year? Yeah, I think he does. But first, let's listen to what JP Morosi had to say on MLB Network.
The interest for JD, where could he land?
I do think the Dodgers are a strong fit, as are the Giants and the Mariners. I would put the Mariners, what we talked with Jerry Dipoto last week, they need guys who command the strike zone well, know the strike zone. JD Martinez certainly does that.
Now, in reference to what Jerry Dipoto had said about DHs during the GM meetings, he said, "We'd love to have a full-time DH, a banger who just goes out there and bangs. But at the same time, we're open to the notion of rolling guys around. It's whatever the market will allow. You can't force things." Moving guys throughout the DH position has been a thing the Mariners have done in the past quite a bit, and if you were to sign JD Martinez, he's basically strictly a DH. You're not going to be moving him around, so unfortunately you're not going to have a lot of time to get guys days off their feet. Like Julio can't come out of center field for a day and DH, because that would mean that JD Martinez is not going to be in the lineup that night. So you probably want to keep JD Martinez in there every day. It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the Dipoto era Mariners, and to be fair, this is just kind of how baseball is now. A lot of teams just roll around guys in the DH spot, and you don't have that everyday DH like the Mariners did with Nelson Cruz. There's not a whole lot of full-time DHs left, and JD Martinez is one of a very few guys that make a lot of sense for it. Do you guys remember last offseason when JD Martinez was in Seattle for like a wedding or something like that, and then we all got so excited thinking that he was talking to the Mariners, he was going to sign a contract, and obviously that didn't happen, and he signed instead with the Los Angeles Dodgers? Well, here we are again, once again talking about JD Martinez, a guy who I've always liked for the Seattle Mariners, but he is just a DH. Let's take a look at his numbers and see if they really make sense to add him to this Mariners roster. In 2023, in his age 35 season, JD Martinez was an all-star where he hit 271, 321, 572 with a 134 OPS plus. That's very, very good. Martinez hit 33 home runs for the Los Angeles Dodgers with 103 RBI. He walked 34 times and struck out 150 times. So the strikeouts are a little bit of a problem there for JD. But as you can see here, his batted ball data is very, very good. 96th percentile in expected slugging, 98th percentile in average exit velocity, 98th percentile in barrel percentage and hard hit percentage, sweet spot percentage in the 97th percentile. JD Martinez absolutely rakes, but he does swing and miss quite a bit with a whip percentage in the 7th percentile, K percentage in the 9th percentile. He doesn't walk that much in the 35th percentile, and his chase rate's in the 27th percentile. With that being said, JD Martinez has been a consistent hitter throughout his entire career, hitting 287 as a career mark, 350, 524. He's also slugged 315 home runs in his career, averages 34 per 162 game average. His career OPS plus is 133. And yeah, JD Martinez is just a guy who is a pure hitter in MLB and one of the best there is. He also doesn't have terrible platoon splits in his career where he's hitting 281 versus right-handed pitching and 304 versus left-handed pitching. Obviously a better hitter versus lefties, but he faces righties a lot more often. He's also at 219 home runs against right-handed pitching to 96 versus lefties. MLB Trade Rumors expects JD Martinez to sign a 2-year, $40 million deal, and Anthony at MLB Trade Rumors thinks that he will sign with the Seattle Mariners. Obviously, that is $20 million a year AAV for JD Martinez, a guy who will be 36 next year, 37 at the end of that 2-year contract. Is that something that you're willing to do, to go out and sign him for 2 years, $40 million? Maybe. I don't know. In my opinion, he has performed much better throughout his career than Teoscar Hernandez has. He's a guy who's been much more consistent, but while Teoscar is not great in the field, at least he can play out there. JD Martinez, you're not putting in the outfield. So I don't necessarily know if that's the move that you want to make if you're the Mariners, because it could very, very well hamstring you to the point where you have no one else that you can put in that DH spot. You can only put JD Martinez there or risk having him sit out. He has had a few injuries in the past, but overall JD Martinez has been a very consistent player, a guy that would make a lot of sense in this Mariners lineup. And If there is a right-handed power bat that's going to fit in T-Mobile Park, I think Martinez is the guy that makes the most sense. He is the most Nelson Cruz-esque of everybody left on this market. Again, the question is, will he be willing to come to Seattle? That is the biggest question for all Mariners fans at this point. Are these guys willing to come to Seattle? We'll just have to wait and see on that, but it would make sense to have him hitting 3 behind JP, Julio, and then go JD Martinez, Cal Raleigh, or something like that when you're looking at your lineup. JD Martinez makes a lot of sense. 2 years, $20 million a year. I think I'm willing to do that for JD Martinez. In terms of the overall lineup, I think it would look something like this with JD Martinez, with Crawford at the top, at shortstop, of course, Julio in center naturally, Martinez as the DH batting 3rd, Cal Raleigh as the catcher batting 4th, Gino over at 3rd base batting 5th, JK in left field batting 6th, Ty France at 1st base batting 7th, Dominic Canzone in right field batting 8th, and Josh Rojas over at 2nd base batting 9th. Obviously, this is a far from finished product for what the offense would actually look like in 2024 for the Seattle Mariners. This is just simply an exercise of looking at who the guys that are on the team right now and how they would fill out a lineup if there was a game today should they sign JD Martinez. So obviously Canzone in right field and, you know, Kelnick still starting in left, who knows. There's so many moving parts this offseason. This is just what the lineup would look like, in my opinion, if they added JD Martinez and that was it going into 2024. With that being said, there are other guys that I think would make a lot more sense for the Seattle Mariners. I talked about that in this video on the screen. Now go ahead and check that one out next. I appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.